Pentagon?
What?
Did you join the Pentagon?
The Pentagon, I mean, you know, I have targeted individual weapon systems. I've worked with Barney Frank on his proposals. You know, I opposed the war in Iraq. I mean, you know, it's an ongoing process to try and, you know, bring some sense to the Pentagon. You know, but a lot of it is waste. I mean, we don't know how much. It would be nice to start with an audit and then start fighting over the individual weapon systems we don't need. So I don't say it's de minimis to look at waste. We used to have something called the Defense Renegotiation Board, which would look at every defense contract after the thing was done, and then maybe take back some of the profits that expired actually back in the 90s. I tried to redo that. That's not going anywhere. So anyway, I've spent a lot of time on these issues, and we'll continue to. I promised him it'd be next week, left issue. So.
You mentioned earlier that Congress has created a goose egg in jobs this last year. Why isn't jobs number one for the Congress? People are suffering out there. There's 20% of the population is essentially jobless. I don't know how they make it. I was in that category for 9 months and I barely got by. I was one of the lucky ones who got out. So why isn't that number one for the Congress? I don't think Congress is taking care of its people.
Well, I can't tell you. It's number one with me. It has been number one with me for quite some time. I was trying to do, you know, my part in terms of a real stimulus bill that could have worked, that had more investment in it and less tax cuts. I've opposed the tax cuts, which are not helpful to create jobs. I've opposed the free trade agreements, which are exporting jobs. You know, I've offered a bill to try and say no more free trade agreements till we have a commission and they give us ideas to solve the trade deficit and a long-term plan, and we vote on it. But you know, there's a majority of you know, people on the other side of these issues. You know, I do what I can as one member. You know, and again, I'm going to say I fault the president. I don't think he's kept his eye on the jobs either. I mean, his jobs plan, as explained to, now he's going to have a big jobs plan. That's great, but he's the guy who brought my surface transportation reauthorization, which would have created a few million jobs, to a screeching halt 2 years ago. And even though he kept talking about infrastructure, he's the one who was responsible for the tax cuts and the stimulus instead of investment in infrastructure and building schools and other things that a number of us wanted to do, because he cut those deals. So I'm not very happy with him. And then, you know, there's his last jobs plan, last time I was down in the White House, is 3 things that won't create jobs. He wants to do Bush's free trade deals. That means we lose jobs. He wants to do patent reform, and I'm like, what's that about? And he wants to extend his Social Security tax cuts, and now he's about to have a big fight over that because the Republicans are on the other side, which isn't going to create jobs, in my opinion, instead of investment. So we're not getting led by someone who has, and now he says he's going to have a big jobs package very appropriately after Labor Day. And so we'll see what his big jobs package is and as if there's any reality to it. Someone said to me, what do you want? I said, I want reality. His budget had $450 billion for transportation and infrastructure this year, unfunded. And he said to Congress, oh, well, you figure it out. And that was the last time he talked about it. I said, that divides. I said, you can't put a big number in your budget and then come into us 9 months later, 8 months later. I mean, you got to advocate for these things. You got the bully pulpit. So, you know, I'm doing the best, but no, Congress assembled. You know, there's a total and focus on things that aren't creating jobs. Budget cuts, tax cuts don't create jobs. I mean, some of them are necessary, but not to the extent we're doing, and not without some investment and job creation on the other side. It's just not. So, yes, Nick, you want to ask a question? No, you're telling me it's good.
No, thanks.
We're about 5 minutes over. We'll do just a couple more because I'm getting really tired. Yes, right over there. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Is there another because there's another town hall has a meeting, so I won't.
Well, all my talking points have been stolen. Where to begin? The narrative, you guys are getting your rear ends kicked. The Republicans are winning the narrative, and I feel that my president has rolled over on me. I started working when I was 12 years old. I'm 67. I paid into the government for 55 years, and I consider that a contract. I consider that the full faith and credit of the United States government. And if Congress and the President and the Democrats are gonna roll over on Social Security, then America has defaulted in spades. This entitlement crap, these are contracts, these are compacts. And I'm told, along with school teachers and firefighters and policemen, that we're entitled to something that we've been working for 50 years, 40 years, 30 years. And I think Morgan Freeman recently told the president he needs to get pissed off. Well, I'm pissed off. And I bet there are some people in this room that are pissed off. If you guys don't change the narrative, you're going to lose the White House and you're going to lose the Senate. That's the message you need to take back to Washington.
Well, I don't need to take it back. I've already broadcast it.
And by the way, I gave Phyllis a documented Medicare fraud complaint that you've been helping me work on, and I appreciate it very much.
All right.
Because when you can nail them on this stuff, you need to do it.
Okay. All right. Thanks. But you know, I mean, we've already gone over the jobs thing and the need for jobs and the need for the Democrats to step up. I have some faint hope that this time the president will present something concrete, not to make a bad pun, and we'll stick to it, and we'll push for it every day, as opposed to mentioning it once, going to a job site, having his photo taken, and then going off on some other, you know, the issue of the day. So I'm with you 100% on that. I had high blood pressure for the first time in my life just before I left Washington, you know, at the end of July, and and that's because of my frustration and anger and my fact that, you know, and I'm pushing my own party leadership, you know, in addition to the president, and, you know, trying my best. So with that, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.